Hey there, high level enthusiasts, marketers, and SaaSpreneurs. JB back here, and you're tuned in to the podcast that's all about taking your high level game to new heights. Each week, I bring in top industry experts who dive deep into strategies that drive success specifically for a high level community. Whether it's getting more customers, leveling up your knowledge, or supercharging your high level with new strategies, we've got you covered. So today I brought on a special guest. I'm joined by Chris Martinez, the founder of Bloom. You may be familiar with Chris from his previous brand, DudeAgency.io. He was also a winner of 2 Stevie Awards, including Minority Owner Business of the Year. The gentleman has published 3 books in various business categories, and his latest book that comes out at the end of the summer is called Facts, Not Feelings, and it's for and by an agency owner and how to get out of what they're doing now to be where they want to be. So without further ado, let me run into what we got ahead for you. Our today's episode is running your marketing agency with facts and not feelings. And we're going to go over 3 important bullet points here that Chris is going to lead us into in detail. 1 is making sure you have the right financial plan. 2, having the right team to accomplish the right objectives. And 3, bringing it all together and taking action with the facts, not feelings method. Look, this is an episode that's for you. You're going to get some action insights. If you're tuning in live right now, comment below live. Let us know that you're tuned in. Chris, without further ado, man, welcome. It is great to have you.
Thank you so much, man. I love this energy.
A little
Fires
fist
me
down
up.
there,
There
man.
we go. There
Moving
it
and
is.
grooving.
Right there. Yeah, let's do this.
Yeah, we've had a chance to chat offline here, and I'm excited that you can jump on here. And for our audience that's tuned in, we got a jam-packed episode. But Chris, those that don't know you yet, right? The world is big and full of great people. Could you share a little bit about your greatness, what you do, your life experience, and why you decided to jump on here?
Yeah. So I was actually on the show, actually, well, maybe not this specific show, but I was on a Go High Level podcast a few years ago with Chase. And at the time, we were talking about Dude Agency, right? And that's what most people have known me for. And just a long story short on that, I got into digital marketing in 2012. I had a failed business that I was licking my wounds from. When I started my agency in 2012, I actually started a soccer magazine in 2007, and that failed miserably. I lost everything, like all the story of like not having any money, like that was me, right? So fast forward 2012, I start this marketing agency. Things are going well. 2015, I end up building a business in Mexico specifically. And I was one of the first people to find talent in Latin America. So 2015, it doesn't feel like that long ago, but, it was about 10 years ago. And so it was very, very different back then. So we had this unique ability to be able to find and source and train talent in Mexico specifically. I was driving back and forth across the border from San Diego to Tijuana every single day. And I built up my agency. We had over 220 clients at the time. And I had everything was being run by this little team in Tijuana. 2017, I get the idea, what if I could help other agencies get access to this talent pool in Mexico? And so we created this brand called Dude and started running ads, and we started getting clients. 2018, we go to the Traffic and Conversion Conference, and we got a booth there, and it exploded from there. I mean, from that one conference alone, I think we got around $300,000 to $400,000 in revenue. And we're creating jobs and, connecting these amazing people in Mexico with these marketing agencies, right? It's 2018 now, and everybody's like, wow, such a great idea. I had no idea that I could find talented people down in Latin America. At that time, everybody was going to like Philippines and India, right? And so we started making these connections, and now we're getting to like the pandemic, right? And of course, everybody struggled at the very beginning of the pandemic, but then our industry started to really take off. And our clients started to coming to us, and they were like, like, you're providing us these amazing people. I recognize how good you guys are with like operations and, hiring, obviously, training, how do you, the financials of running the business, retention. So our clients started asking us these questions. And of course, we started answering them and just like giving them advice. And then out of that came this consulting product. And we're like, this is a really interesting product. let's do this. Let's do more of this. And so that's kind of where Bloom started. The management consulting part of it came from. And then we're growing the business, and we kind of like recognize, one, when you run an outsourcing company, there's this interesting dynamic where the agent who's in, let's just say Mexico, develops a really strong relationship with the agency, right? And those two want to end up working together, right? And it makes sense. They're working side by side. Dude was like the middleman. And so we recognized that, and we started to facilitate, the agents starting to work directly with the agencies. We had like a buyout option and stuff like that. But it was also weird, a little bit weird, because that whole like conversation is like, like the agent's like, I'm loyal to dude because you guys helped me. And then the agency's always like, like, you guys helped me find these amazing people. So just that whole dynamic started to get a little bit weird, And so we started looking at that. And then the biggest point was we started to see the opportunity to help agencies outside of just staffing, because our industry is growing up. Like our marketing industry, it's still a very young industry, maybe 15, 20 years old. And so we started to see that there's this bigger opportunity where we can start helping agencies, not just with staffing, but with the bigger things like improving profitability and fixing operations and building out the rest of their team, so that one day they can get to that point where they can have an agency that runs on its own, which is something that we all dream of, right? I think every agency out there has had this dream at some point of working from the beach with their laptop, right?
Absolutely.
Very few people actually accomplish that. And so along the way, we started to learn that we can help agencies with this, right? We can get the right people in the right places. We can show them how to build systems and processes. We can show them how to run their numbers and improve their profitability and build what I call an asset. And I think this is one thing that most agency owners don't touch upon enough, is right now, like, let's be honest with yourself. Is your business actually an asset? And is it an asset that you could one day sell for life-changing money? I'm talking 8 figures plus, right? And so we started building out this consulting product, this management consulting product, and we started to get results for clients. And then once we had the formula, right, which I'm going to share with you guys today. Once we had the formula, then we were like, okay, it's time to do this rebrand. And then Bloom was born out of that, right? And so this just happened. It's end of July now, so we did our formal rebrand middle of July. So I think we're about 16 days into the Bloom brand, but it's been awesome. What's really cool is like our team is so excited about this, So
it sounds amazing. And it sounds like, you've been through there and back.
Oh, dude, I've been doing this for 15 years. I've been in marketing for 15 years. Yes.
And we were talking, you worked briefly for, for the newspaper advertising.
Yep.
That, like we have a benefit, and I don't want to date you or date me, but we have a benefit where we've been through various decades of change, and the changes have been big.
Yep.
And because of that wisdom, that knowledge, that strategy just hits different.
Yeah.
Although someone binges YouTube or reads blogs until their ears fall off or their eyes fall off, right? It doesn't matter. It's the real life experience. So, that's what appealed to me when I said, would you mind jumping on here? Would you mind sharing your expertise? Would you mind just spending some time with the high level community and just go a little bit more in depth on this?
Sure.
So, I want to just pivot here if we can. We talk about, you should have a bookkeeper, you should have an accountant, you should have your finances, you should have, your P&L, you should have all these acronyms and different processes, right? And it all sounds good in the beginning, but it's really exhausting and stressful when you're in it. So can you unpack, without having our audience really look in the mirror and break it and be frustrated, right? Could you unpack what's the right financial plan look like for a marketing agency, not just a small business, a marketing agency?
Absolutely. Let me first say that I am not a finance guy, right? I am not an accountant. I didn't go to school for accounting, and that's not what I want to do. Like, I'm an entrepreneur. I love building and creating, and for me, this is a form of creative expression. So with that being said, what I learned early on through other mentors, because I also didn't grow up in an entrepreneurial family. So a lot of what I've had to learn is through blood, sweat, and tears and failing. And I have been fortunate enough to meet some very successful people who took me under their wing and taught me these things. So all of what I teach and what we do for our clients are things that I wish that I had known back in the day. I was talking about my soccer magazine that I started, so like my dad died of cancer in 2007. He had pancreatic cancer. He's diagnosed and he died in a month. As I was going through all the grief of that, I launched the soccer magazine and I made every mistake that you can make. I lost everything. I didn't have enough money to pull a $20 bill out of the ATM. It was that kind of story. I didn't know how I was going to make it. At one point, my truck got repossessed, and my friend, I had to call him crying to bail me out. Right? So like I've been in a bad spot before and I've made a lot of mistakes. I don't blame anybody else for my mistakes. Part of what I'm passionate about, irrationally passionate about, is helping people to get access to this information. So what I'm going to show you, it's not rocket science. Okay. I want to break it down. And if anybody has any questions, of course, like reach out to me whenever.
Well,
So
in that case, if you don't mind, this is a new format we're doing, Chris. In your case as well, if you want to ask a question to the audience, just ask them the question to comment below.
sure.
So all of you that are tuned in now, jot your questions down below. We promise to get to as many as we can. If we don't, there'll be a link in the blog and in the YouTube description of how you can contact Chris and
Okay.
continue the conversation. But definitely drop your questions, drop your feedback, drop your aha moment. So I'm gonna throw it back to
Perfect.
you, Chris.
Okay, cool. So the first thing that I want to do, and we are going to have to look at the numbers, right? So I know when we talk about P&Ls and stuff like that, a lot of you, your eyes will roll back in your head. I'm telling you, I don't like gathering the numbers, but I love analyzing the numbers and being able to fix problems, right? So you always want to start from the numbers because the numbers are the numbers, right? Like you can't lie about that. That's part of the whole like thing with the facts, not feelings, is you might think that your business is running great, but you need to look at the numbers, right? And are we actually on plan? So I want you to create a financial plan. Let's start and let's analyze where we are at. So grab your P&L, and I want you can break it down month by month, or you can just look at last year, or you can just look at last month. And there's six specific things that I want you to look at. Okay. Some of these are going to use your P&L, some of them are not. So the first one is I want you to look at your cost of goods sold. The cost of goods sold is essentially how much are you spending to get your projects out the door. So if you're doing, let's just say, 10 grand a month in revenue, I want you to be spending $3,000 a month in revenue. 30% of the total revenue goes towards the cost of goods. Okay. It's a really, really important number. That's the first place where people go wrong. The second thing that I want you to look at is your operating expenses. How much does it cost you to run the business? These are things like rent and bookkeeping and like if you have a phone service, like all those things, that the expenses that you use to run the company, plus your own salary. I want that to be around 40%, right? So we got 30% for COGS. We got 40% for operating expenses. And then the last number is your net. I want you to look and see after all the expenses are paid, how much money is left over. And I like that number to be 30%. Okay. So if you look at those numbers right now, that'll give us a really good understanding of where the business is at. Now, if you're not there, it's not a huge deal, right? And I don't want you, by all means, do not go out there and just start slashing expenses, right? You're going to pay for it later. What we do want to look at is creating a simple, like month by month plan, kind of like a diet, right? We're going to lose 1 pound this month in this area. We're going to lose 1 pound here, right? We're going to put on 1 pound of muscle here, right? And create a realistic plan month by month, January, February, March, April, May, for the entire year, so that when we're consistent and we make these small incremental improvements, in 6 months' time, 12 months' time, the business is where it needs to be. This is the way that you do it. There's a thing called a pro forma, which I can try and find you guys, or I'll grab a link and I'll get a template for you guys so we can drop it in and people can just access that link. It's the most important financial planning document that you'll ever use in your business. It revolutionized my own business. So you can build out your pro forma, and then that will help you to have the plan. Okay. The
How
other
were you
things that I want you to look at, sorry, go ahead.
how were you introduced to Performa? Like, what was that moment that you were
Yeah.
introduced to it? How did you find it?
So, okay, this is a good story. So 2019, our business was doing around 900,000, between 800 and $900,000 a year in revenue, but we weren't very profitable. And I'm now friends with Russ Perry, who started Design Pickle. And back then, he was having a mastermind group, like a 12-week coaching program. And so we weren't making a lot of money, and his program was 14 grand. And I was like, should we do it? Can I afford it? I talked to a bunch of people that I know. They're like, do it. So I invest the money. And my program was starting in January 2020. He was wrapping up the program before us, like the group before us, December of 2020. And I'd signed up in December of 2020. So he's like, hey, I'm finishing up this group. If you're interested, because you're close, you can come out to Phoenix and see what they're doing, kind of get a head start. So I'm like, okay. So I drive from San Diego, like this is totally last minute. I drive from San Diego to Phoenix and I get in that room with him. And in the first 15 minutes of being there, he brings out the pro forma and he brings out his pro forma. And I get to see his numbers and how he's running Design Pickle. And I'm like, this is the missing piece. This is why I'm running the business the way that I am and I'm not making as much money. And I started to see the margins and all that stuff, right? So immediately I tell my team, we got to get these numbers, right? And that was absolutely revolutionary for us. And if it hadn't been for that moment, we wouldn't have gotten through COVID. Because
So I
during
want
COVID, we lost 18% of our revenue overnight. We went back to our performance, changed everything, and then 2020 ended
scary
up being a
stuff.
massive success. Yeah, oh yeah, dude, it was
I mean, life changing.
terrifying, terrifying.
So with with Proforma in mind, and obviously you've experienced what you've experienced from it. Just I'm going to paint the picture of maybe an agency. Maybe they have traditional services. They do SEO.
Hmm.
They have maybe 10, 15 clients of SEO. Some of it they keep in-house. Some of it they outsource to a
Hmm.
third-party vendor. Maybe they're doing some sort of mastermind course where they're spending maybe $1,500 to $3,500 per month for that mastermind coaching, of
Yep.
its own. Maybe they have, let's say eight to 12 VAs that are
Hmm.
consistent. Maybe their monthly payroll is
Hmm.
between 6,000 a month to 10,000 a month on any given month, and they're maybe paying their VAs like maybe $60 to $80 a week, right?
Okay.
Maybe $100 a week, $100 maybe about maybe $100 every 2 weeks, like right that
Okay.
flow, where it's like $30 a day, $20 a day kind of mindset. And they're just piecing this all together. They're managing it themselves. They're piecing it all together. And maybe, their Stripe says 25K coming in gross.
Okay.
Maybe they're charging the taxes and all that, but it's just not enough. I mean, it looks good, 25K gross, but it really comes down to who knows what, right? How how does that person start to like they're like just trying to they're band-aiding everything, it sounds like,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
from a financial point. Like when does that like cruise ship make the turn and how? Is it the pro forma that does it, or is it the mindset, the people, the objectives? Like where, like I know it's a lot to unpack right now,
It's
but
it's a bit of everything that you just mentioned. Okay. So let's just take look at it from a facts, not feelings standpoint. Okay. We really do have to get an understanding of the numbers. If you don't even have a bookkeeper or you don't have any of these numbers, all you got to do is look at the revenue. So like you can look in your bank account and you can see how much, or you can put it on a spreadsheet. Just say all your clients, here's what they're paying me, 1,500, 2,500, 3,000, da 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 da. That's it. Just do that. Add that number up. Say it's 25,000. Then I want you to look at all the employees that are being used for production, meaning that they are fulfilling on our client stuff. So if it's SEO, put in all your SEO people. How much are you paying them? If it's PPC, if it's websites, put that all in a list. Total that number up. You take that number, you divide it by the total revenue. That'll give you your cost of goods sold. That's a very, very simple way of doing it. If that number is over 35%, right? Because we want it to be between 30 and 35%. 30% is the goal. You've got some room for improvement. If it's over 50, 60, 70%, how I was back in 2019, then you got a lot of things that you need to improve. The easiest thing is just raise your prices. Raise your prices. It's the
to
easiest thing
to
to do to fix that.
to our audience what this gentleman just shared with you, right, from personal experience working with other agencies, like that's the feeling that he probably had when he walked in to that room that he
Yeah.
shared with you. So I hope you see the value of what Chris just shared with you, and thankfully, like I understand it because I went through some of that pain and I've heard other painful stories. But maybe you don't know what you don't know, and just make sure
Yeah.
you take that note. If you leave this episode now, take that with you. And if you're going to stay, wait till what we have next. So I
Yeah.
want to pivot here, if it's okay with you.
Yeah, for sure.
As now that we know with the percentage, the numbers, the cost of goods, the COG,
Yeah.
type in the below cost of goods, having the right team to accomplish the right objectives. How do we know what fat we need to cut? What do we need to
Yep.
position? What specialist versus generalist?
Yep.
How do we
So
piece
let's
that
okay.
together?
Well, let me actually tie in one more thing
Go ahead.
for the financial model
Okay.
is I want you to think about where do you want the business to be in a year, right? Do you want it to be at $1 million in revenue? You want to be at $3 million in revenue, right? Because you have to tie in your goal at the end of 12 months, 2 years, 3 years, 10 years, right? And let's come up with a realistic plan of attack for that. Like I'm not a huge NFL guy, but I did play, high school football. I was the kicker in freshman year.
Nice.
Um, so there is a plan of attack, right? Like any coach says, okay, these are the players that I need to be able to get to the playoffs, right? Or if I want to win the Super Bowl, these are the team members that I need to bring onto the team. So after you identify what you want your company to look like in a year, 2 years, 3 years, 10 years, now you can see, okay, who are the players that I need? So the next thing I want you to do is I want you to create an organizational chart, right? Again, maybe this term makes your eyes roll back in your head. I'm telling you, it's so important.
Maybe
Look
they
at
don't even
it
know what it is.
as
Like people think that's for corporate, like organizational chart. That's like a corporate thing. I'm a marketing agency. I don't need to organize it.
this is
That's
a roster that's going to help you to identify who's on the team and what they're responsible for. I'm going to give you the positions that you must have, and you actually have it. It's probably not defined. The positions that you must have in your organization. Okay, is that okay? Okay, I
go
got
for it, man. Take
6 of them.
notes, guys.
Okay. So the first one is the CEO/COO. Most likely that's you. If you're the owner, that's what you're responsible for. You're the face of the company. You help establish the mission and the vision. You make sure that we're maintaining company culture. You have relationships with your biggest clients and any industry people, right? Those are some of the obligations of the CEO. Let's go down. So like at the top, we have the CEO, COO. Then below that, we're going to have a line that goes like this. I'm going to start with the operations. Operations is who is in charge of all of the fulfillment. So just picture this. We're running a shoe factory. And inside that shoe factory, we got to make shoes, right? So the operations manager is responsible for all the materials like the leather and the laces and the rubber and like all this stuff. They're responsible for the equipment that we use for making the shoes, and they're responsible for all the people that are making the shoes. Okay. So that's that shoe factory. In our business, we don't have equipment. So the biggest thing that they're going to be overseeing are the labor to fulfill on all of our client projects, and software. Those are typically our biggest expenses. Okay. The operations manager, I'm going to give you some of the key metrics that they have to be looking after. Okay. So the first one is the capacity of the team. You have to know what's the capacity of our team. Capacity meaning if you have one person and they work 40 hours a week. Okay. So if you have 10 people and they all are full-time people, right, working
Mhm.
40 hours a week, that means the total capacity of that 10-person team is 400 hours. If you have 500 hours of work and
Mhm.
you can only get 400 hours out of your people, you have a capacity issue. And actually, the issue is if you have 400 hours of work and you have 400 hours of people, that's also a problem. You're going to burn them out. They're probably going to quit, right? You're not going to be able to take on new business. So that's the big thing that you have to look at is the capacity of the team. You have to track that monthly. The next big thing that the operations manager, the person who oversees that department, is going to oversee is the cost of goods sold, right? So we want to make sure that they're able to get all the work done for 30%. Now, there's a caveat to that. You can get it done for 30%, but we can't be like under delivering for our clients because then the clients are going to cancel and the business is going to go bad, right? We also can't keep it at 30% and burn out our employees, because then our employees quit. And then we're going to have cancellations and the business is going to go bad, right? So you have to balance budget, clients, employees. That's what the operations manager has to do. So that's the most important person on your org chart when you're getting started. You have to have somebody to run the fulfillment department. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Next most important is going to be customer experience. This person oversees keeping churn down. That's the most important thing that they do. Our business model runs on monthly recurring revenue. You have to keep your churn below 3%. That customer experience manager is responsible for keeping that churn under 3%. That's what they're going to be looking at every single day. Now, they build out processes and customer journeys to help keep the churn down below 3%, but that's the most important thing that they do. Next, you're going to have marketing and sales, somebody to do marketing and sales for your agency. That might be you as the owner for a while, right? I usually keep the agency owner doing marketing and sales for at least until they reach $1 million in revenue. They're responsible for how many appointments did we generate, how many of those appointments turned into what I call a AAA prospect, somebody who's has budget, has decided that they want to make a buying decision this month, and they have verbally committed to, it's has budget, has verbally committed to making a buying decision this calendar month, and we've done a pitch meeting with them, and ideally they have a proposal. That's what makes them what I call a AAA prospect. How many AAA prospects, and then how many deals do we close? That's what the marketing and sales team is for. Creating appointments, turning those appointments into qualified prospects, closing those deals, right? The next department that you have is finance. Looking at the numbers, making sure that we have more money coming in than money that's going out, and creating a forecast for that. And the final department is going to be your human resources department. Those are the people that are building out the infrastructure for training, maintaining company culture. HR is my least favorite thing to do. So they're managing all of the people and making sure that we're getting the most out of the folks, and of course, obeying by the laws and stuff like that. Okay. So those are the different departments. So you have CEO, COO, operations, customer experience, marketing and sales, finance, and HR. Whether you have a big team or not, somebody needs to be assigned to those seats. And it's okay if you're starting out if you have people wearing multiple hats. But you have to make sure that this is the team structure, right? If we're going to win, we need to have this team. Need to have people in these seats. We need to have the quarterback. We need to have the wide receiver, the running back. We need DBs. We need a free safety, right? This is the team that we're building out. It's very important you chart this out so everybody knows what they're responsible for. After that, you can fill in all the other seats that go underneath operations and the customer experience, and but you start there. Super, super important.
Yeah. I mean, there's not like a marketing agency school where you go to and you do a
No, it
master's
doesn't
on.
exist.
It's all this is the practical. What you do practice is what you do when it's game time, and who
Yep.
you're around is who you network and you grow with. So thank you for really breaking this down. This alone could have been something that you charge a premium price for, to break down just the fundamentals, which is what's required to understand the
Yep.
big picture. Now, as we start pivoting here into facts, not feelings, and the method that you put together, one question that it's probably going to lead back into it, but I just want to throw one question to kick off here is, for the audience tuned in, maybe they're thinking in their mind, depending on what their current plan is in 30 days, 90 days, or 3 years, or 5 years, the question I'm going to throw at you, if you can answer, is what's it going to take for me to create a business, my marketing agency, that can be considered an asset to potentially sell one day? Like, is there even an opportunity to sell this and to leave to my family? Because I don't think my family wants to manage my agency if something were to happen.
Well, yeah. I mean, worst case scenario, like, pray that this doesn't happen. But let's say you have an agency and you get hit by a bus, right? And then who's going to run that business, right? What happens legally? Okay. So like this goes back to my dad dying of cancer. He had things that were not structured correctly financially, and they became a burden on the family. Tens of thousands of dollars that we had to pay. Whereas if he were alive, if he would have made some other decisions, then he could have avoided all of that, right? And so your business can become a massive liability on other people. So if there's any motivation to get things in order, I think it's that. You do not want your business to be a massive problem for somebody else, like your family, like your spouse, like your kids. And so that would be, to me, that's like a massive motivation to want to do it the right way. In terms of building it as an asset, right? So we definitely need the financial plan. So if you're going to sell your business to somebody, and maybe it's next year, maybe it's 10 years, 20 years, right? Whoever it is that's going to buy your business, they're going to look and see, okay, what do the financials look like? They're going to look at the past 2 years. They're going to look at your growth rate. They're going to look at your revenue, of course. They're going to look at your cost of goods. They're going to look at your profit. Your business is going to be valued on profit, by the way, right? They're going to look at things like your sales, right? So what were sales looking like? How many are you selling? Is there an opportunity for me to come in and improve that? They're going to look at your churn rate. Churn rate is unbelievably important. It's another one of those first 6 things that I was talking about that you have to make sure that they're going well. Churn rate is really, really important. It's got to be below 3%. Who's in charge of that on your org chart, by the way? Customer experience manager, right? Okay. They're going to look at how much you're charging your clients. We call that average revenue per unit. If I buy this business, can I improve that? And then the last thing they're going to look at is the team that's running it. If everything is reliant on you, then it's probably not something that they're going to want to buy, or you're not going to get as good of a valuation on that company. Why is that? Well, because if you leave, maybe half the business walks out the door, right? It's possible. So this is where I talk about you have the financial plan and you map out where you want to go. Then you look at the org chart and you see, do I have the players, the team members? They're going to help me execute that plan. And once you have those things in place, now you're building an asset. The best place that you can get to, I'm telling you, 20% year over year growth, 30% COGS, 30%, or I should say 30% COGS, which is the flip side, it's 70% gross margin, 30% net. If you have a business like that, it is very, very sellable. That is an asset. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense.
Absolutely. If that makes
Okay.
sense, make a comment below that you understand it. If you don't understand it, definitely ask for clarity. Again,
Yeah.
like I mentioned, there'll be a link in the YouTube description to connect with Chris, to take advantage of some of the resources that he's been kind to share with us, and to learn more about the events and the mastermind and just the network that he has built within his little community to help each other grow and survive this experience of what we do in entrepreneurship. I
Yeah,
mean, it's
it's
an
so
adventure.
unbelievably hard. Running an agency is so unbelievably hard. I think it's one of the hardest things that you could possibly do. But just, having these simple frameworks of looking at the business with facts, not feelings, right? Making sure that you're hitting those numbers, you will be so much happier down the
Yeah.
road, right?
And,
That's
and,
your
and
path to that laptop on the beach type of business.
absolutely. Because I know that we're right at that tail end, right? I just want to sneak in one more question for the audience.
Sure.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Well,
Ask away.
okay.
I'm an open book, man.
All right, awesome. So, we spoke offline. You've worked with some great people and helped them grow their business. You work and partner with other people to help their audience, and you now have your own group of folks that trust you directly and expand and expect you to like know your stuff.
Mhm.
Based on all the experiences of people that you've worked with and been around, what are some of the common characteristics? What are some of the common
Yeah.
characteristics that you've seen from other agency owners that their
Yep.
business runs on their own and makes a revenue that is braggable or that's life changing?
Yeah. 100%. So I'm going to give you can I just kind of rapid fire like
Go
eight
for it, man.
things that they have
Yes.
all in common? Okay. So the first one is that they believe in accountability, right? They believe in looking at the data and the facts, right? And they believe in holding everybody accountable, kind of like in a sports team, right? Like, hey, you're on the team. I expect you to, if you're, well, let's say a professional sports team, you're on the team. I need you to score touchdowns. I'm going to hold you that. If you don't do it, probably not going to be on the team for very long. If you have a couple bad games, not the end of the world. but at the end of the season, I need you to score 10 touchdowns, right? That's going to help us win. So they believe in having a business that's founded, or a foundation of the business is accountability. The second one is they believe in controlling their own emotions, right? Of emotional intelligence, both in themselves and the people that are in the organization. The next one, and this is an interesting one that we see, is that our founders, they place an importance on their physical and mental health, right? So not bodybuilders, right? But they recognize like what's going on in my physical body is actually more important than what's going on in the business. And so they take care of that, right? Really, really important. The next one is they're very good at getting stuff done, right? They might have some normal, procrastination, like a lot of us entrepreneurs do, or getting like lured away by a shiny object. But for the most part, they're pretty darn good at getting stuff done. The next one is relationships. So they value personal relationships. Most of them have families, actually. Most of the very successful agencies that we work with, they have families. And I think one of the reasons, and I don't have hard data on this, but I think it gives you something else to work for, right? I'm building this business not because I want to be rich or I want to have a jet or whatever. It's because I want to take care of the people that are around me.
Mm-hmm.
Next one is what I call intrapreneurs. They know that they need to build team members who essentially own a department and run that department like it's their own business. So you have to have really good intrapreneurs in the business. Next is they got to run the business by the numbers. They love analyzing the numbers like I do, and they recognize that the numbers are the facts and that we're going to make our decisions based on the facts, not whatever, I'm feeling in the moment. Okay. Next is financial responsibility. We've seen a massive pattern where somebody who has a financially successful business also has good personal financial responsibility. They all have good credit scores. It's weird. And I'm saying that as somebody who didn't always have good credit. I had terrible credit back in the day. And as I've improved my own personal credit, guess what? The business also improves its financial success too. And the last thing is that they have the mindset that they do want to sell the business one day. Usually it's not today, right? But they do embrace that idea that I do want to build an asset that I could sell one day, right? So having those things in place, that is what we're seeing from a statistical standpoint of the agencies that are doing really well, the agency owners, right? Those are the things that they all have in common.
Wow. The wealth of knowledge. I mean, this is like 4 chapters in the book that I wish was on the shelf when I needed it. Thank you. Thank you for just unpacking it, man. Just keeping it easy to understand for all levels, keeping it realistic and not too high or too low, just right in the perfect tone, the perfect understanding. So I appreciate it. If you feel the same way as me, comment below. What were your thoughts on this episode? What was a nugget that you grabbed from it? What's your next step? Chris, Chris Martinez, Bloom, you and the team. I can imagine what y'all do for your clients. I can imagine the events you put together and how you bring this and you really start workshopping it. In the link that Chris is going to include, there will be an event that High Level will also be a part of, and there'll be some information on that. So take a look at that link in the YouTube description and connect with Chris if you have questions. Chris, thank you. As we leave, what's one statement of wisdom that you could share with our audience, wherever they may be in their journey, from the heart, from your experience? Do you mind sharing?
Yeah. Okay, I've got a lot, but I'm going to give you one. It's a little bit more on the personal side, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
And it's one that I live by. It's that the business is a reflection of you, right? And so if you're stuck in your business, instead of trying to look for all the hacks or all the tools that you can use, right? All the software that's out there, really look internally and see, is there something that I am doing that's actually leading to me being stuck in the business? Maybe it's a discipline issue. Maybe it's that you don't have the plan. Maybe it's that you haven't embraced that, well, actually, I'll give you one specifically. It's maybe that you haven't embraced that you're an entrepreneur and this is the life that you were meant to go down, that this is the path you were meant to go down, right? Maybe it's the circle that you're around, right? But maybe I want you to first look internally and see, what can I change about me that will have an immediate impact on the business? I'm telling you, if you start there, you will have a much better chance of success. You'll find the answers much, much quicker. Okay. So that's my one piece of advice before I let you guys go.
At this point, I'm about just to toss the keyboard to the side, close the laptop, and call it a day.
Just
You
mic
were
drop it.
amazing, man. Thank you.
Oh, thank
Mic
you.
drop in the mix. Thank you for being courteous to just share, man. Just give us your all. To our audience, thank you for tuning in. If you're not yet a high level user, this is what you get to experience. Folks like this coming into our ecosystem, talking, sharing, users, experts. Thank you, Chris. We'll
Thanks,
see you
John.
on the next
Appreciate it.
one.
All right. Thank you.
Absolutely. To our audience, we'll see you next time. Take care.